Today on Locked On Arizona Cardinals Squad Show, it is list season. And does respect just be given to you or is it earned? As well as it's still list season. Did the Cardinals have the best? Did the Cardinals have the best offseason in the NFC West? Let's talk about it next.
Rise up, Red Sea. It's the Cardinals Squad. Sponsored by Game Time. Everything Arizona Cardinals every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Valley of the Sun. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Gear up and squad up. The Cardinals Squad Show starts now.
Welcome back into the Arizona Cardinals Squad Show. My name is Benjamin Garcia, host of the Ben Garcia Show mornings on YouTube and a credentialed Cardinals media member. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals Squad Show your first listen on this beautiful Thursday. Don't forget to make the Locked On Cardinals. Don't forget that the Locked On Cardinals Squad Show is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So click that follow and subscribe button to do it. Thousands of other Cardinals fans have already done. Become an everydayer and be locked on to the Arizona Cardinals each and every day. Joining me today is your regularly scheduled program Locked On Cardinals host, Alex Clancy, who continues to drive us in with some hard-hitting opinions, as well as my guy Jamil Douglas, former NFL offensive lineman, former Arizona State football alum, and Super Bowl 51 champion. Good morning, fellas. How you guys doing? Number 2. How are we?
What up? Man, I'm feeling good. How you guys doing?
Just doing so good. Until I would continue to, actually set the audio right for the second time. Maybe in the third show, I'll have it figured out in the open, but that's not why people are here. People are here to continue to talk about the Arizona Cardinals, our favorite team. And so let's start here. The Cardinals have invested a ton into their weapons on offense, regardless of what you want to say. They extended Trey McBride over the offseason, making him the second highest paid tight end in the NFL. Actually, I believe when that came out, he was the first highest paid tight end. They spent the 4th overall pick on Marvin Harrison Jr. and as well as James Conner. He is nothing to sneeze at. He was extended once again. So ESPN's Bill Barnwell thought it'd be a good idea to rank them 15th when you group together the running back, wide receivers, and tight ends, ranked all those in the NFL and made the Cardinals the 15th team, not even sniffing the top 10. We can get into deeper what it means, but I'll start with you, Alex. What was your reaction here?
That's right. Like, there's some vitriol with the rankings. I'm not really sure as to why. This isn't just wide receiver 1, tight end 1, and running back 1. It's the entirety of all the groups. Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch aren't really dudes that are household names yet. I think it's something that they've got the talent to be that, combined wide receiver 2. Listen, if things go 70% of the way we think they're going to go with this, evolution of the offense and the defense getting a lot better, we're going to see this team sniffing top 10 next year. But I think this is right. Marv didn't have a Pro Bowl year last year. He wasn't expected to. James Conner and Trey McBride did, but collectively, I think 15 is about right.
Jamil, you?
Yeah, I agree. I think if I see this and I see the number 15 in front of it, I think I'm okay with where it's at. It's not too high, not too low. Obviously, it's in the middle of the pack. You've got yourself a receiver that you drafted that has a lot of potential, still waiting for that number 2, number 3 option to be, from a receiver standpoint, to come to life. You got yourself a really good young tight end that's established and an established veteran running back. So I think 15, I'm not mad at it when I saw the numbers. I think it's a good spot to be in, and it gives you the ability to be in that top 10 conversation as opposed to being top 5, top 10, and then after the season we look back and now we're in 20 and beyond. So I'm not mad at it.
Yeah, let's debate this. I had some kind of other things planned out, but throw that out the window. I'm surprised both of you guys are saying that this is, I think this is kind of disrespectful to the Arizona Cardinals. Trey McBride, I understand, we talk about respect being earned, respect given. But Trey McBride he's a top 3 tight end in the NFL. Let's just call it top 5, so we have to argue about anything else. Forget Marvin Harrison Jr. I think he's going to be a good wide receiver, but you guys are right. He was fine last year. I think his rookie season was actually a little bit more disappointing than some people might say, given the fact that he's a 4th overall pick. But you still got Michael Wilson there. I think Greg Dortch is a fine number 4. Zay Jones is there as well. And you also add in James Conner and Trey Benson. You gave up a 3rd round pick to go get Trey Benson last year. And, listen, I would maybe agree with you guys a little bit more, but like I look at the Texans who are right in front of them, the Commanders. I think that was a lot of Jaden Daniels and not much last year. You got Terry McLaurin there, Zach Ertz. I get what you guys are saying by you're not mad at it. But man, I look at the other people above it and I say, or the other teams above it, and I'm like, that's a little rich for me. Don't you guys think so?
No, I mean, listen, Trey McBride is almost there. He's almost at the apex of the position. We talked about a couple days ago, I think George Kittle was still the dude at 1. Nobody's saying Trey McBride's the best tight end in football yet. They're saying he's in that A group. He's in that tier 1, but it's not going to drive the position. Marvin Harrison Jr. was drafted best player available at 4. I don't think that should have anything directly correlative to, his production in year 1. He was drafted. He was the 3rd option behind Trey McBride and James Conner. So I think he did a pretty good job. He had almost 10 touchdowns. Like, he wasn't drafted to save the position group. He did a very good job. I think overall, put it this way. If the Cardinals wide receiver, tight end group and running back room was in the top 3, there'd be deficiencies elsewhere. You want balance with this roster, right? I mean, you want talent everywhere. So if you're spending, like, I don't know where Cincinnati's at on this list, but I'm sure they're at the top because they spend $2 billion on wide receivers. Like, if you build a roster with, the way the Cardinals have, you're not going to have more than 1 or 2 top flight guys at any position, which would lend you to think it'd be kind of middle of the run until we see what happens this year.
Yeah, I'm not asking for the Cardinals to be top 5. Like right here, the Vikings, number 6.
I was gonna say, where would you like them to fall on this list? When you look at the teams that are ahead of them from 1 to 14, where would you like for them to be at on this list?
Well, immediately I look at number 9, right? And I look at the Atlanta Falcons. What do we got going on there? We got Drake London, Kyle Pitts, no one loves, and Bijan Robinson, who's a really good player. Had the dude in fantasy football last year, carried me when I drafted a really poor team. But I look at that and I say, okay, we got Drake London, who's like a good wide receiver, but I don't think I wouldn't even say right now at this point in his career, I don't know if he's better than Marvin Harrison Jr. He's been consistent. He's been good.
He's made
Bijan Robinson's good. Kyle Pitts, they're trying to ship him out of town. And then I look all the way up to 4. I guess my biggest gripe with this always comes back to the San Francisco 49ers. Ricky Pearsall, Brandon Ayuk, both guys who got injured last year for different reasons, and we're just assuming they're going to be great. They traded Jordan Mason. They traded Elijah Mitchell. Yeah, they find running backs out of nowhere. But Christian McCaffrey, who has an injury history, I would just say that that's a little rough. So I think that they're a top 10 trio. I don't think that that's asking for a ton, especially with the guy in James Conner, who I think is top 8 running back, and Trey McBride, who's top 5, and then Marvin Harrison Jr. I see the potential. So that's where I would go. Jamil?
Yeah, I mean, listen.
Sorry.
With San Francisco, it's tough with San Francisco because for me, and I'm not a San Francisco stan, but their fans are the worst in the NFL. Like, there's a lot to say against the San Francisco 49ers. But Christian McCaffrey, 17 weeks. George Kittle, 17 weeks. Arguably, you give me any running back in the NFL, I'm still taking Christian McCaffrey if I know he's playing 17 weeks. The dude is absolutely insane. Jahmyr Gibbs, it's circumstantial. He looks to emerge. Bijan Robinson couldn't get in the end zone 2 years ago. What Christian McCaffrey does is put up fantasy points, put up yards, catch passes, take all the touches, and score touchdowns when he's healthy. The Cardinals, James Conner is outside of the top 10 in running backs. Trey McBride is top 5. Marvin Harrison Jr. isn't in the top 20 yet. When you look at Atlanta, for your example, look at what Darnell Mooney did last year. Look at what Drake London did with Tyler Algier. They've got dudes who can produce more than just their top guys. Yeah, I agree with you with Kyle Pitts, but that's the difference between 15 to 9. They have a bona fide wide receiver 2. They have a bona fide proven RB2 who scored all the touchdowns 2 years ago instead of Bijan. So there's more proven stuff there than with the Cardinals' depth.
Yeah, I think if I'm looking at it, there's 2 teams that I would question ahead of him, and it's Houston and you're looking at the Dallas Cowboys. Those are the 2 teams that I feel like I would question above them. But outside of that, so we could bump them up to 12 and be happy, 13 to be happy. But outside of that, I think that this list is kind of spot on in terms of what the potential is. Obviously, unproven from we know Marvin Harrison Jr. has the ability to be a number one receiver, but they're right in the middle of where they should be on this list outside of two teams, in my opinion.
I guess I would ask you guys, the follow-up question would be, okay, let's say that, I mean, I think Kyler Murray has more than enough to succeed. When I see this list, I don't want it to be we're going to put Kyler around guys who we think can perform, but it's maybe not enough because they're the 15th best trio. When we talk about running back, tight end, wide receiver, that fuels the fire of, well, Kyler doesn't have enough. I think he's got more than enough to succeed this year, and that's why I put them a little bit higher. I guess the question would be then, okay, do the Cardinals maybe need to go out and go get a Keenan Allen to be the second string, third string guy just to get open, shore up the wide receiver room a little bit? Or does it kind of make you rethink your expectations? If you have literally the halfway mark of weapons on your team, it just feels like, okay, you're talking about your defense you think is going to be better, but what's really supposed to carry you is your offense. I mean, does it worry your prediction at least a little bit for the Cardinals be a playoff team? You know, Jamil, I can start with you.
No, it doesn't worry me at all. Like I said, you're middle of the pack. Everyone has to start somewhere. If anything, if I'm looking at this list as a Cardinals fan, I'm encouraged by this because, like I said, we're in the top half of the league, and I know that my tight end is up and coming. He's a bona fide tight end. I know I got potential at the wide receiver spot, and I know what I'm going to get from James Conner week in and week out as far as, you know, running the ball, tough, physical. So if anything, it doesn't scare me as far as what we want to accomplish as a team. I think it's right, spot on. I don't know how else to say that. I think we're in a good spot. Yeah,
and I think the one little caveat here is Kyler Murray's running ability too. That's going to bolster the running back room. If you're going to put the quarterbacks in here specifically with running, like, you know, this isn't an inexact science. The Cardinals and offense and defense were both top 15 last year. Okay, so it's not about the offense being top 5. It's about both teams collectively being around the top 10, and that's what gets you playoff wins. That's what gets you the balance necessary. This is a far removed time from when, you know, Aaron Rodgers, when he won a Super Bowl, had the statistically worst defense and the best passing offense, I think, that year. It's like you got to have both. It's got to be a lot more complementary, and that's why this is kind of much ado about. I don't care. Like, this is, and Bill Barnwell's a smart dude. He thinks differently. Yeah. He does things differently. I respect his opinion, and I don't. Put it this way, I don't think it's offensive. I don't think it's a lazy position for the Cardinals to be in, which is where a lot of lists have the Cardinals because people don't pay attention to them and they just throw them somewhere.
There it is. I think that a lot of it is like, listen, it's the Cardinals, it's small market. They're probably not paying attention to them. I don't think it's offensive, but it is kind of like, oh, am I overvaluing them a little bit? I guess I would ask you this then. Is this an indictment? If I think that these guys are great, and I do think that they can be great, especially James Conner and Trey McBride, is it an indictment on Kyler or an indictment on Drew Petzing that those guys aren't seen as better talents?
This is pure running back, wide receiver, tight end. If he's true to that, you're going solely based. Put it this way. Atlanta wouldn't be 9 if Michael Penix was included. You know, like this list, you're looking at CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, who could be the second best 1-2 punch at wide receiver after this year if they do it right behind Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Like, there are absolute powerhouse positions with teams ahead of the Cardinals on this list. There's still a lot of TBD. You're getting there. No, but this isn't an indictment, dude. Like, this is exactly where you expect it to be. Like, I don't think, like Jamil, right? Like, I don't see Marvin doesn't deserve a top 10 conversation yet. No, you know, so I think he's the anchor in this conversation of the three.
Yeah. Yeah. Without Marvin Harrison Jr. in the picture, they're much lower on the list. And that's something to be said because he hasn't, you know, lived up to what, not saying that he's lived underneath what we expected, but, you know, he hasn't had the year that we can all expect from a number one receiver. So, again, they are in a good spot with being ranked 15. Considering one or two teams interchanging between the two, I think I look at this and I'm like, let's go. Let's get it.
How many teams make the playoffs again? 14.
14.
So it's kind of where you want to be.
Kind of right outside where you'd want to be. Okay, that's a good point. I should have looked at how many NFC teams are on there. But I guess I'd ask you this as a final question. Since we're on the conversation of Marvin Harrison Jr., where does because we know we're going to get in Trey McBride. We know we're going to go get we're going to get in James Conner. We saw it last year. I mean, sure, I guess James Conner could fall off a cliff, but if we're in make-believe land that everyone is healthy and everyone's going to be great, we know we're going to get in them. Is Marv kind of the X factor that makes this whole thing run? If he's awesome this year, then the Cardinals should be a playoff team. If he's more of what we had last year, we're again on the fence, which is like not a bad wide receiver, but definitely not deserving of the 4th overall pick. I expect more from that. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just speaking in terms of what it takes to be a good NFL team, outside of the Buffalo Bills, who had production, from a couple wide receivers collectively, you need somebody that's going to stretch the field, that's going to be a threat on the outside. That makes it easier for Trey McBride. That makes it easier for Kyler in terms of how you can load the box and allow the ball to get to different locations on the offense. So he's a big piece of it, and that's the reason why they drafted him at that spot. Yes, he was best available, but also that's what you need from a receiver in order to score points, push the ball down the field. That has to be, we need 1,410 from him. That should be, what we're expecting.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. He had the worst version of an above average rookie year that a wide receiver could have with his talent. Like, that was the worst we're going to see from him. Here's the thing. During the most important moments in 2 of the biggest comebacks, one against Miami with a drag route touchdown where he toe tapped on the short right side pylon, and I'm doing this out of order, but the crossing route against the 49ers on 4th and medium in their own zone to extend the drive, he looked for Marv. The 2 touchdowns in the first quarter against the Rams, the toe tap in the back of the end zone that very few wide receivers, including elite ones, could catch, and then his way to extend at the pylon at the goal line where he released behind the safety in the broken play with the 2nd touchdown. Not all receivers can do that. It's kind of like Kyler Murray with his peak. Not all quarterbacks can reach that peak. Marv showed the special that you can see. Like, arguably, he showed more of that than Garrett Wilson did in his rookie year. Like, you can see these guys, you can see flashes. And now it's just time for that level up, which is on Marv. He gained 100 pounds of muscle. The 70-30 balls that were really the 50-50 balls last year, he's going to come down with a lot more of those, and he gets a full offseason without the fanatics crap, without the no combine, without the, like, Jamil, how much easier was it your second year as opposed to your first?
Yeah, absolutely. There's gonna be growth there for sure from him. We're gonna see him come down with the balls he's supposed to. We're gonna see him making plays. Hopefully, he's a little more comfortable within the offense, and I think we'll see a whole different player out of him.
There are going to be thousands of more Marvin Harrison Jr. debates on this show. It's a polarizing topic. Marvin Harrison Jr., like, I got in a lot of trouble last year because I just mentioned I kind of wanted Joe Alt over Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm sure as Jamil Douglas shakes his head yes, because it's an offensive lineman over a wide receiver. Because I think that's where you build the trenches, but I couldn't lie. It would be awesome to have a great wide receiver. I just think that there's more of them there than there were bookend left or right tackles. So Marv's an interesting one. I'm sure at some point he will figure it out, but it turns out he probably is the X factor that's going to make all this go. Next are the Cardinals. Should they be making a all-in move to go get a TJ Watt, a Micah Parsons, a Trey Hendrickson, or listen, are they just not there yet? I got a compelling argument for why, and I'm going to share it with the 2 guys next. First, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you are all about baseball under lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little bit more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. Or listen, if you're at the beach, I guess you could just technically do it there too. But for example, I'm not a massive gambler. I can't sit here and act like I know all the different betting lines when it comes to that kind of stuff. But what I will say is Summer League action is right here, right around the corner. And if it was me, that's where I'd be sprinkling a little bit of my funds and potential winnings on. Go over there, go see the Suns. They've got Rasheer Fleming, come on, Mala watch, and they're going up against, I believe it is the Kings on Friday. the Suns should have the edge in that game. So sure, they might be a plus favorite, but overall, at the end of the day, you're just trying to make a little bit of money. You look at as well in baseball. I mean, listen, a lot of the games are kind of going on right now, but the Cleveland Guardians, they're starting to streak a little bit in a good way going up against the Chicago White Sox tonight. That is a game where they're minus 120. So why not just sprinkle a little bit down there? New to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $1,500 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. So go ahead and check out FanDuel. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, guys, keeping the show moving. Listen, as we get into these shows, there's some broader topics that we maybe missed at earlier in the offseason, but some of these things are kind of still going on. Now, I understand Trey Hendrickson, Micah Parsons, TJ Watt. Like, one of those guys might be more unwilling to move than others. But here's the argument that I'll make to you guys. If the Cardinals really are this close to winning a Super Bowl, this close to making the playoffs, my argument would be the Lions and the Commanders have both represented the NFC in the conference title game over the last 2 seasons. If I'd have told you 3 seasons ago that those 2 teams were going to be in it, you probably would have laughed at me, especially the Commanders. NFL seasons are really weird. If you're the Arizona Cardinals and you think you're close to getting to the playoffs, who knows? Maybe an injury happens. I would rather be ready for it than a little hesitant and just do this incremental growth. Be ready for the moment. If you're a team that slips in the conference championship game, I do think you'd want to go get a Hendrickson or a Watt or a Parsons. Where are you guys at on that? Should the Cardinals be exploring the options for at least one of those guys, probably likely more TJ or Trey Hendrickson, or is it just too early in the process? Jamil, I'll go to you first. Muted.
First time again. Hey, so look, I was making a good point. If I'm the Cardinals, I'm definitely going and trying to get a pass rusher. The teams that you just rattled off, the Commanders, the Lions, the Eagles, the Rams, all of these teams that have represented the NFC, great passing attacks in what they do. To me, the way to combat that, obviously you have to have DBs that can, cover these wide receivers, but also you got to get to the quarterback and affect the quarterback. I think, like we spoke about last episode, the Cardinals were bottom half of, their pass rush win rate. So why not go get one of these guys that can help propel you over that? That's the key to, winning games. A guy makes a play here and there. We've seen TJ Watt do it over and over where he impacts a game and, wins from a defensive standpoint. So I'm all in for it. I say you go get one of these guys and try to help your offense out by having a great defense.
No. Is that enough?
Hey.
Here's the thing. So the progression of this offseason has been kind of bananas. So one of my most watched shows on Locked On was Michael Parsons or Marvin Harrison Jr. and 2 first-round picks. Because early in the offseason, I was like, I just floated it. It's like, listen, determine what your future is going to look like now. Okay? And I didn't say that they should. I didn't say they shouldn't. I just said it's a conversation. Because that would be enough for Jerry Jones, who needed a wide receiver at the time, to part ways with Michael Parsons and make an excuse as to not why they didn't have to pay him. Now, when you see the progression of this offseason, Trey McBride, $40 million over 4 years. Calais Campbell, 6.5. Josh Sweat, $40 million over 3 years. I think there's an out there. And Dalvin, 2 for 13.5. That's pretty much what you'd have to pay one of those guys. TJ Watt, Trey Hendrickson probably a little on the lower side. For me, it's already been decided that this won't happen. Like, the infrastructure is in place. Maybe around the trade deadline, things change. Maybe the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers are god-awful, and you can get TJ Watt for a second-round pick or something, and you want to, change the trajectory then. For me, I'd rather go get a Zadarius Smith and just see what happens. Like, you don't know who this pass rush is yet. And this is a year where you have a high enough floor to compete. You're not like, I'm not saying TJ Watt will make this team a Super Bowl team. We don't know. I think the big indicator is like, if this doesn't work for Kyler Murray, then you change things next year. I think they're just ready to rip. Now, I understand the sentiment And they've got the money to do it too, and the picks. Like, it wouldn't jettison the future to do it. I just don't think Trey Hendrickson is going to be a Super Bowl or not kind of dude for that.
Oh man, I couldn't disagree more. You look at the Commanders last year. I think obviously it's pretty clear at least this point. Jaden Daniels is just
Who did they add?
I think that's the issue. They added Marshawn Lattimore late in that season, but I think that team who. Well, yeah, I would agree with you. Marshawn Lattimore wasn't great, but that was seen as a star signing or a star trade back then. I think if the Commanders knew that they were going to make the conference championship game, that they would have added a little bit more and wouldn't have brought a plastic knife to a bazooka fight with the Philadelphia Eagles, who've got stars everywhere. I'm just saying the NFL season is incredibly weird. And with no Lamar Jackson, no Joe Burrow, no Patrick Mahomes, no Josh Allen in your conference, you got to be ready to win this with stars. That's what the Eagles did last year. And although, like, I would probably lean towards, I'm not giving up Marvin Harrison Jr. and 2 first-round picks, because at that point, then it's 3 first-round picks, and I'd be willing to give up 2 for Micah. But what the Cardinals, I think, are missing is someone that can disrupt the passers, someone that can absolutely just run amok a game. I like Josh Sweat, but do I think he's going to come in and cause a difference in 2 fourth-down scenarios, sacking whoever it is in the conference championship game? I think that's the case. I don't want to get caught flat-footed. I think this is the year where you find out if the Cardinals are a team that can make a splash in the postseason. If they get in and they win a game or 2, I don't think you want to be caught flat-footed and be like, damn it, I wish I went and got Trey Hendrickson. Just an extra oomph. That's where I would go. Jamil, you're agreeing with me. You want to add to that?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's what I said. These teams that have represented the NFC have had a passing attack in which has to be affected in order to get to where you want to go. So I think you go and get one of these guys. I think you worry about the finances later. We saw it with the Rams years back when they loaded up with, Von Miller, Aaron Donald, all these guys on defense, brought Eric Weddle out of retirement to come compete for a Super Bowl. And then you figure out the financial piece later. You understand that there's going to be some sort of cap hit or whatever, but ultimately you win the Super Bowl, you don't worry about it. Or you get far in the playoffs, you don't worry about it. So I'm all for it.
I just want to say, as an offensive lineman, when you're going up against one of those 3 guys, I'm sure we'd probably agree Micah and TJ are probably a little bit better than Trey Hendrickson, although Trey Hendrickson had just had back-to-back 17.5 sack. How much of the game plan is taking out that guy in such a big scenario? And then in that case, when you're trying so hard to focus on one of those guys, what does it do to the other guys, Josh Sweat, Dalvin Tomlinson, Calais Campbell, that you're trying to go up against?
100%. That's what I was going to say. The fact that you can slide to a Josh Sweat if someone's having a hard time with him, that just takes him out the game. Now, when there's 2, you can't slide to both of these guys. You can't get 4 hands on 2 of these guys. So it allows the ability for the defense to actually get your one-on-ones. Now you don't have to blitz in order to – we saw it in the Super Bowl. I don't think Philadelphia blitzed 1 time against Patrick Mahomes, and that's because they were able to create one-on-ones with their pass rushers and affect the quarterback. And essentially that sharpens up your back end. That allows the guys to just play whatever coverage they want and not have to worry about who's where. You can really, really rely on your front to make plays.
I mean, and I get it. I get it. But you look at the last couple teams that have made the Super Bowl in the NFC. The 49ers had Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, in the second level, had a couple good corners, didn't have a second dude. The Eagles, aside from Hassan Reddick 2 years ago, they didn't have a pure, I'm going to kill you pass rusher. They had Brandon Graham, they had Jalen Carter, they had Josh Sweat, they had a bunch of dudes. They had Nolan Smith. They had a bunch of guys who had a really high floor to where you couldn't double anybody, to where you had to play straight up, and that's how they ate. And the interior pressure that Jalen Carter and Brandon Graham and others were able to produce was enough to have a B pass rush on the outside look like an A pass rush. So that's kind of where, like, if they thought that edge rush was that big of an issue outside of free agency and what they did, they would have moved up to take one or taken one at 16. Like, this was part of the plan. Like, Jonathan Gannon, what Nick Rallis has done through the course of his career has elevated the hell out of not so great talent on that side. Imagine what you can do with this. Coaching is so important when it comes to this. And it's like, I just can't. Like Steve Spagnuolo, coach, like he's had like 4 good dudes every year. And they're the best defense in the AFC. I know Chris Jones helps because he's.
Yeah, I was going to say, Chris Jones is just a game wrecker within himself.
Look at what Jerry Sneed became when he got traded to Tennessee. Like, look at what happens when you're not in a system. And that's I'm going all in on the Nick Rallis system, superseding needing to make some sort of rash move at this point.
I get what you're saying, but I was at training camp last year. I was in the pressers, and the question was always like, "Hey, JG, are you going to do something about this pass rush group?" BJ Ojulari, I was at that practice where he went down, and they're like, "You guys keep saying it's a problem. We don't think it's a problem." And it's just like, okay, you did address the issue this year, but at some point, you have to at some point the Cardinals have to know when their time is. Maybe it is next year. And you do need to go all in, add that extra star, and figure out the rest later. What if it's this year? In an NFC where, we think Jaden Daniels is awesome, but sophomore slumps are a real thing. This might be your only chance to make a real splash in the playoffs, potentially move on and go get someone else. But you guys have a favorite? Like someone that might, out of those 3 guys that we know, Micah probably can't be had, but it's a good topic of conversation. I mean, anyone can be had, and anything's for sale. But more attainable, Watt, Hendrickson. I mean, if you were to get something up, what would you be willing to give up? Because that's a part of the conversation too.
That's 2 different questions. One, the first question is, would you rather TJ Watt for 12 games or Trey Hendrickson for 16? Because TJ Watt ain't playing full seasons anymore. So we talked about that with Tua and Kyler, that stupid thing that I floated last time. Would you rather have Trey McBride or TJ Watt for 12 games or Trey Hendrickson for 16? That's question number 1. Question number 2, they can give up whatever they want and it won't jettison anything. They've got the money, they've got the picks. So you give TJ Watt, their mid-second round pick, 2nd and a 4th, happily. But it's like, I'd rather have TJ Watt because I know what TJ Watt is when he's on the field. I know Trey Hendrickson's numbers are great. That's fantastic. That defense was god-awful last year. That's why Joe Burrow's numbers, that's why Higgins got paid. So I'd much rather take TJ Watt for 12 than anybody else if we're picking.
Yeah. Jamil, have you ever went up against one of these guys?
I have. Oh, you're not. Okay,
played against Hendrickson. TJ Watt, I have not played against TJ Watt.
That's good. You seem happier.
Hey, I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining by any means. Anytime you don't have to play one of those guys, it's a good sign. But I will say this. I think TJ Watt is a game wrecker. When he's healthy, when he's capable, I do think that the style of play factors into the amount of games that he's been able to be on the field. The Steelers they're tough-nosed. They practice hard. They play hard. That wears on a pass rusher. And so I think if you get to a place where you can really keep a guy fresh, I think TJ Watt can give you the 16 games that you need. But yeah, I'm willing to give up picks for TJ Watt. He's a game wrecker. He's going to make you 1 or 2 plays a game that are going to shift your whole season when you need it. So why not? You have to have a pass rusher that scares other teams' offensive lines, or at least puts them on edge in order how to figure out how to block this guy.
I mean, let me leave you with this.
Go for it.
I think sometimes I sound profound and sometimes I sound like a dumbass. Okay. This is one of those times you guys will learn. You can laugh at me after. Okay. So the Cardinals don't necessarily need like a flying, roaring dragon out around the edge. They don't necessarily need that with the infrastructure in place. What they need is what they have. Dalvin Tomlinson, Calais Campbell, Josh Sweat, Walter Nolan, Jordan Birch, Baron Browning, Zaven Collins, BJ Ojulari, Darius Robinson, like a pot around a plant so it can grow with, a solidified like cocoon to grow in. And they've got that floor. And that's the thing that means more than a dude who is a game wrecker when he's on the field, but you don't want to give him $30 million to be on the field for half the year, in my opinion.
Yeah.
What you're telling me is they got everybody but a solidified pass rusher.
Do with that as you wish, sir. But yeah, I think that's not right.
I think it's appropriate to say that me and Jamil in a pass rushing contest, we're going to take TJ Watt or Trey Hendrickson or Micah, and Clancy's really interested in Baron Browning and Zayvon Collins, and that's okay. That's okay.
Stop it. Really? That's Twitter in a nutshell right there, baby. That's Twitter in a nutshell right there.
It's probably likely at this point, if the Cardinals were going to make a move, they would, and it doesn't seem like any other team's price are coming in, but it's a good thought exercise. Another good thought exercise. The report cards are in. ESPN's got another list for us. It's list season, baby. The report cards are in for all NFC West teams. How did the Cardinals, Niners, Rams, Seattle Seahawks do over the offseason? We're going to get some grades by ESPN next. And we are back, moving the show on. The NFL draft grade reports are here. ESPN staff led by Seth Walder came up with a all-inclusive report card that includes the NFL draft, that includes free agency, and the Arizona Cardinals. We're just giving them a letter grade. They got an A-. The biggest move that Josh liked was Josh Sweat, the signing. The biggest move was seen as Josh Sweat, the signing. The most move that ESPN liked, extending Trey McBride. The most move that they disliked was Will Hernandez. So overall, an A- isn't bad. Reactions to the Cardinals offseason as a whole, give a letter grade. Tell us what you think. A reminder, it kind of felt like they got 2 first-round picks in Will Johnson, Walter Nolan. They did land Josh Sweat after a couple of hours in free agency where they didn't do much. Clancy, I'll start with you this time. How do you think the Cardinals did?
I mean, I think for them, it was an A. It's exactly what they needed. It wasn't perfect. You can't add everything, everywhere, everything. If you saw the hug that Jonathan Gannon gave Monty Ossenfort after they got Walter Nolan at 16, that was their dude the entire time. That was it, and he fell. And the Josh Sweat, Dalvin Tomlinson thing, massive. I still say, and this is – so I give it an A. The icing on the cake was Calais Campbell deciding to come home. It's like, things are different now kind of thing. It was very emphatically known that they didn't want to give him $40 million, however long. And then Saxonville and Baltimore and Miami and Atlanta happened. I don't think that there could have been a better 0-1 jump from last year's roster to this in an offseason, especially extending Trey McBride and Budda Baker and James Conner. They brought their dudes back too. But yeah, I mean, I think it's an A. I don't think that's slurping Monty Ossenfort at all. What? I don't think that's the Homer thought process. I think it's just an A.
Clancy, you just talked about Twitter. We're supposed to be pros. I get upset with my guy Brendan Clean on Locked On Suns because he'll say, I'm not glazing him. I was like, can we not say the word glazing?
Why is that bad?
Slurping?
Why is that bad? Look it up. It's a radio thing, I guess. I don't know.
Jamil, please rebound us from there.
Oh man, look, I'm happy. I'm happy with the A. I'm happy with the A-. I'm again. You keep your core guys together from a standpoint of the guys you re-signed. You add Calais Campbell, who not only brings some stoutness to your defensive line, but just from a locker room standpoint, what he's going to add for a young guy that you drafted in the first round in Nolan. I think it pays dividends in the long run. I'm happy with the A. I do think the Will Hernandez, because I am an offensive line guy, I think the Will Hernandez thing is big. I think that, as consistent and as tough and as a tone setter as he was, I think you may miss that a little bit. But again, that's for them to address within training camp and kind of build that identity. But I'm happy with the A-. I think we'd all be happy with the A if we were grading it out. So I think it's a good spot.
I think the Cardinals selectively found guys that fit their program, and we know what Monty Ossenfort wants. High character, and you best not get injured guys. Josh Sweat doesn't miss games, high character guy. That's what the Cardinals have continued to go after. They're not really into head cases and dudes that sometimes get injured. That's why, like last segment, I don't know if they'd be super interested in TJ Watt because of the injury history. But, Jamil, let me ask you this. You were in the locker rooms. You played on the teams.
Yeah.
How much does continuity matter? I mean, you look at this Cardinals team offensively. A lot of the same players that started last year are starting this year. I think everyone on the offensive line, everyone on the offense is coming back, I believe, outside of Will Hernandez. And then defensively, there's a couple of new faces, Sweat, Nolan, Tomlinson. Basically, that whole defensive line is different. But offensively, and most of the defense too, most of the key players are there. How much does continuity actually matter? Or is it just like we're skilled, we know how each other play, we'll figure it out?
I mean, you could definitely, figure it out if you're skilled and you have, that ability. But I think continuity is big in terms of just communication from a pre-snap standpoint and then understanding what's going on within the game. A lot of times, the teams that I've played on where we've brought guys back consistently, you don't even have to communicate as to what's happening on the field, and it allows you to play faster and quicker. So, the fact that they were able to bring those core guys back, but also add some young talent to rooms that have veterans in them that can teach them and get them up to speed is big, in my opinion.
I mean, in continuity, it's not just the scheme and how nice the people are and they're not getting random DUIs and stuff. Like, that's great. The thing that Jonathan Gannon and Nick Rallis preach the most is violence. People who want to hit people. This isn't Patrick Peterson's Cardinals anymore. This isn't like, let's just guide these guys out all pro. It's like, what are we doing here? People aren't requesting for trades aside from Budda Baker, which was obviously a ploy to get that contract a couple years ago. Like, people are violent who are wearing Arizona Cardinals uniforms now, especially on the defense. Every single one of them, or they're not going to see snaps. Like, that's the continuity. That's the level up that this roster has. And they don't need another dude to bring in. So yes, continuity in the locker room, of course. What the Cardinals have now, and I can solidly say this after 10 damn years with this podcast, with Locked On Cardinals podcast, is they've got all the leaders necessary to make an actual difference on the field. Everywhere. It's not just one. It's Budda Baker. It's Calais Campbell. It's Josh Sweat. It's Garrett Williams. It's James Conner. It's Yalda Frolt in the middle. Like, everybody. They've got the ecosystem in place to be unbreakable. Say they wanted to go and sign Odell Beckham Jr. They could, because nothing would matter. It wouldn't mess with the ecosystem. I use that as a bad example, but you know what I mean? Like, that's the continuity. That's the biggest impressing thing for me over the last 2 seasons for them.
Let's talk about the NFC West really quickly. Niners also got an A-minus. I'm just thinking maybe I'm going to be the homer on the show. Maybe that's the role I'm just going to play for the next some odd months while this continues to go on. But the Niners also got an A-minus. I look at the Niners offseason. I don't think it was like necessarily awful, but I guess it really depends how you feel about Brock Purdy. But they lost Hufanga, Elijah Mitchell's gone, Jordan Mason gone. Those backup running backs that were there are gone. Javarius Ward is gone. I guess they're getting back some guys like Brandon Ayuk and as well as with the Rams. I'm just a little confused why they got an A as well. I understand why the Seahawks got a B. I even feel like that might be a little high. But the Rams, Seahawks, Niners, did they do anything in the offseason where you're like, that's scary?
I don't know. I mean, Joey Bosa decided to go and play with the Bills and not there where he could have with his brother. Like, that's a biggest indicator for me. Like, your brother doesn't even want to play in Northern California with you, bro. Like, obviously that's not as good of a situation as the Bills is. I think their retention of talent is going to just carry them in any conversation. Trent Williams, Brandon, like, it's just, they get, you want me to double dip? They get glazed by the national media like every year. Like, they're given the benefit of the doubt more than any NFL team ever. Like, not ever, like over the last couple of years, they're always in the mix, even though nothing really changes there with talent level. So I don't know.
Yeah, them and the Cowboys for some reason are always in the news about a Super Bowl run. But hey, I don't know. But I think, if anything, I think what the Rams added in Devontae Adams, and I know we talked about Devontae Adams having some issues last year as far as if he still has his step. But I do think pairing Devontae Adams with Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay is a big move, considering you guys were a field goal away from competing for a Super Bowl. So outside of that, I think, obviously the Rams did something, but I don't know how the Niners get an A considering the guys that they lost.
They re-signed Purdy.
Hey. Well, hey.
It depends. I think it depends how you feel about Brock Purdy. If you're the person who continues to bang the drum of, just Super Bowls, leads teams in stats, and give him his respect, and everyone just says, okay, all right, you think he's great, And when you say he's not a top 5 quarterback, people lose their ever-loving mind, which leads you to believe, anyone that says, Patrick Mahomes not a top 5 quarterback, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, you're just okay, you're stupid. You don't know what you're talking about. But if it's Purdy and the person screams at you, it's I don't even know if you believe this because you have to fight so hard.
Are there people saying Brock Purdy's a top 5 quarterback?
Oh, Clancy, can you take this one?
I mean, if you live in the greater Bay Area, Montana comes in second now almost. It's like people forgot who Steve Young was because Brock Purdy's here. I think the narrative around Brock Purdy is if he was the 19th or 20th overall pick, he'd get his flowers for the numbers. I think people just look at it because he was a 7th round pick, and it's just it's Sean McVay or it's Kyle Shanahan's system. That's what most systems that work are. You find the right quarterback for the right system, and then it works. Plus, you have a first ballot Hall of Famer in Trent Williams and Christian McCaffrey on the same team, and that helps. And first ballot Hall of Famer with George Kittle and Nick Bosa and Fred Warner and DeForest Buckner, and we can go on down the list. It was the perfect situation for a dude with his skill set to be an elite game manager, and he's been an elite game manager. You have to give him credit for that.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I would totally agree with that. He's been an elite game manager. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you say that, you tend to get ostracized online when it comes. But it's a very big fan base. It makes sense that they would continue to, come after you for this kind of stuff. But can I make a quick argument and I'm not really asking the question. I'm just telling you to make you guys feel a little bit better. But
appreciate that.
The Los Angeles Rams. Everyone kind of just forgets that and this was written in the story, that they told Matthew Stafford, yeah, man, go see your value elsewhere. Is there a chance that the Rams said that and he went and almost potentially got a deal with the Raiders? Is there a chance the Raiders said that or the Rams said that because they already see a little bit of a decline in Matt Stafford? Because, listen, man, I don't know if you can put that toothpaste back in the bottle. If, my wife came up to me and she's like, hey, listen, you're great, but I'm just going to go test. I'm just going to go see what my market is. I don't know if you can then come back, put that toothpaste back in the tube. I think there's something there where the Rams are like, I don't know if you're the same player. I think there's a world where maybe Stafford falls off a cliff because they allowed him to go do it, and they fall off. And listen, you can laugh, but it is a theory. It is a theory.
Listen. I love the speculation. This is my thing.
No, you don't.
When you're dealing with older veteran quarterbacks, we can call him old. He is old. He knows he's older. There is a certain type of treatment that you get from being in the same organization, winning a Super Bowl, having the continuity that we talked about earlier with your head coach and your offensive coordinator, your quarterback coach. You don't have to practice on Wednesday, Thursday, because you know that on Friday you can go out there in shorts and a T-shirt and the timing is going to be there because you're so familiar with it. So to go tell someone, hey, go ahead and go look at other teams and see if they'll, I'm sure there's other teams that would take him, but when he looks at it, he wants that same quarterback treatment that he's been getting from McVay and their staff. So I think that's what that's more about, as opposed to other teams saying this guy is washed. Matt Stafford can make every throw on the field. If we're talking just pure arm talent, he's an underrated and underappreciated quarterback in the league.
Yeah, and this is, I think, Ben, you're complicating it. I think that they didn't want to overpay him.
Of course.
They wanted to see how much other teams would pay him. They're like, okay, we'll give you that. It's like an NBA restricted free agent. That's all that was without the contract. It's like, oh, you're going to get $40 cool. We'll give you $1 more than that. Let's stay in LA.
Okay. All right. Well, listen.
Because they could have given him $40 million a year and they could have completely overpaid him. They probably had no idea what the market was for him. Like, all right, we'll give you the MP if you're going to buy lobster at a fine dining restaurant. We'll give you the MP for it.
Listen, you could think of it logically like that, or you can do what I did and maybe do a little bit of mental gymnastics to get a thought process out of it. And I just want to say, if Matthew Stafford falls off a cliff, I'm not going to say I told you so, but I kind of did tell you so. It's still list season here on the Locked On Cardinals Squad show. The NFL Top 100 is out. I'm really curious to get Jamil's thoughts on what players actually think of this list, because every year it is insane. So let's talk about it next. All right, guys, let's close out the show. The NFL Top 100 is out. There has only been one Cardinal on it so far, and it was Josh Sweat, as I continue to pull up the list on to make sure I get it all correct right here. But so far, some of the players that have been on it right now, and it's not popping up at this moment, but either way, that's not a big deal. I guess the question is for Jamil first. It is a list of your own peers. Is this something, any list really, that is talked about in the locker rooms of like, okay, listen, I know people like Cam Newton. Cam Newton is awesome, but he was once rated the #1 player in the NFL in a league that had prime Tom Brady in it. Is there and prime Peyton Manning? Is there? It's a list of each other's own peers. Do the players care?
Hey, listen, the Cam Newton thing. Yes, I will say this. Yes, the players care because the players do make the list. The Cam Newton thing, you got to understand, that was when quarterbacks were starting to change we were starting to see outside of like the Mike Vick and our guy Steve Youngs that used to create. But Cam Newton was a guy that was changing the way that quarterbacks were viewed as far as running the football. I think that to answer the question, players care. Players are dumbfounded when certain people are not on the list that they consider to be dogs in the league. So there's always, a guy that's not on the list or a guy that's too high, too low. But to answer your question, players do care because they make the list.
When I'm just curious, really quickly. Did you get a ballot for this list? Did you have to fill it out every year too? How does it happen? Do they walk around the lockers? They just say, "Hey, don't let anyone see eyes on your own paper."
No, yeah. Basically, the way you have a team meeting, and at the end of the team meeting, they hand out these sheets that have typically it's your top 25, I think, or your top 50, and so you'll do that. And then I don't know where the 100 part comes in at, the last 50. I don't know how they slot that, but they do hand out a list for you to fill out, and everyone just kind of does it on their own time, brings it back, and turns it in by the date.
Yeah, I mean, there's two issues I have with the top 100 list. One, I don't get a vote. No, the two I have is one, it was based on last year. It's like the preseason rankings in college football predicated upon last year, counting for the year after. It's like it doesn't make any sense. You want to do the top 100, do it for the year to come, not based on the year prior. That's one. Number two, the Cam Newton year, what I remember from him being #1 on the list was not falling on a fumble during the Super Bowl. So what it really matters, a list doesn't matter. Peyton Manning didn't win it because his arm was a noodle sandwich in the Super Bowl.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
They ran a rough shot over the Cardinals and Patrick Peterson in the conference championship game, and he completely laid it. What was it, 16-13, I think that, or 19-13, something like that in the Super Bowl. And he had a chance to elongate the game on offense, and he decided to file his nails instead of a 6'5" quarterback jumping on a football. That's what happened. Jamil, that's what I remember from the 2015 season. Not that he was #1 on some stupid list. Right? I mean, if we're going to talk about everything that happened in the most important moment, the dude was having a tea party in the backfield instead of jumping on a football.
Hey. Listen, I'm sorry. That was also the 20. Just let me before Jamil, before you respond, let me try to stand in front of the 6 foot whatever big offensive lineman before he crushes Clancy. That was the year Cam Newton the Cardinals went into his house and he was dabbing and dancing and they won 40-50 million to 10. Yeah. So listen, there is a little bit of a grief on that. And so maybe that's going, but I'll let you respond.
Yeah. All I got is the question was, do players care about the list?
That was part of
it. That's all I have to say. And I answered that piece. I don't know anything else about Cam Newton's deficiency.
Who did you have in your latest one? I think it was 2020 what was your last season?
2021 was my last season.
Do you remember who you put #1?
You know what? I think it was Aaron Donald.
Oh, that's a good one. All right.
I think it was Aaron
That's
Donald.
a good one. That's a good one.
It was either Aaron Donald or it was Derrick Henry because I had just came from the Titans. So
Derrick Henry. Wow.
Yeah, Derrick Henry.
Okay.
So I mean, the guy almost ran for 3,000 yards. So
no, listen, I just am curious, how that kind of goes. That's just a good one. I think Aaron Donald actually was the number one player, I think in 2021. I think that was the year that they won the Super Bowl, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, but before we wrap up and have to go, how many Cardinals are going to be on this list? I mean, listen, we know McBride will be there. I think Connor will be there, although feels like he probably should have already been. Buddha, is there someone is Kyler going to make the list? Clancy. God, Kyler's not going to make the list again.
No, who's going to make the list is probably Tua, some other quarterback that,
Tua already did.
Yeah.
Tua was 91.
I don't think, I'd be surprised if Kyler made it. I would be shocked. If you gave me James Conner or Kyler, I'd pick James Conner. I think Buda Baker is going to be in the top 40. He had maybe his best year that he's ever had last year because he was able just to play free safety and not have to cover up for a bunch of mistakes. But I think that's it. There's nobody else that does. Garrett Williams, it'll be his year this year. They could have 8 dudes on this top 100 list after this season if things go according to plan. But maybe 3 because Joshua doesn't really count.
Josh doesn't count. No, he is, but technically he's a Cardinal now, so we count it. But Jamil, is Kyler going to make the list? No, golly.
I don't know. I would love to say yes.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a straight yes or no question right here.
I just don't.
Continue.
I just don't know.
The lone quarterback on this list so far is Tua Tagovailoa. Would you have put Kyler ahead of Tua?
Yes.
After last season? No, I know. Clancy would. I think I would too.
No, after last season, I would say yes.
Okay. All right.
But that's why I say no. Because Tua's already on there. I don't know.
I don't know if I think if Kyler was going to make the list, he would already be on there. I guess my final, just Jamil, you had one of these lists. Did Kyler ever make the list for you?
He was never someone that I added on my list personally. No, but that's not that's subjective.
Well, I mean, 2021 was the breakout year, and that was the last year. 2021 was the breakout year for Kyler. That was the 7-0, 10-2. Now, Jamil, I have a question for you. Say a quarterback doesn't fall on a ball that's behind you in the Super Bowl. How would you see that quarterback after that happened?
I would see him as conflicted. He made a business.
You would see him. And listen, to Cam's credit, before I completely railroaded him, he had just gone through that massive car accident. He was never really the same after that. That was super traumatizing. But if you could fall on the ball to maybe win a Super Bowl, even though it was inside the 10-yard line, you ain't number one for me, baby.
Hey.
You can no comment. I can appreciate that.
Hey, you got me today. I just answered the question that was presented to me. So we could discuss Cam Newton another day. I have a very good opinion on Cam.
I love that.
Listen, I don't know. One of these days we'll discuss Cam, but I doubt it's going to be comparing him to Kyler Murray, given the fact that one guy's got legitimately 12 inches on Kyler Murray in terms of height, and as well as probably another 100 pounds in weight. I will say 2 years ago, because it's on why not? Let me just talk Cam Newton in the middle of the offseason.
Why not?
2 years ago when I was in Vegas in the Super Bowl on Radio Row, I was walking head down, doing social media content, not paying attention. I ran face first into someone, just boom, lowered a shoulder into him. Didn't move this guy. I look up and I was like, oh, sorry, man. It was Cam freaking Newton. Okay. That is a mammoth of a man, nearly a foot taller than me. Nice, dabbed me up, said it was all good after, but he is a ginormous human being, so I just don't know when we're going to talk about him again.
Well, maybe you should have fallen the football then and given themselves a chance to win instead of just salting it away, filing his nails.
What about the 10 others on the field? Where are they at?
Oh,
I mean, listen, that's a very impressive question, but it's really weakening my line of thought here. Let's focus on this specifically.
I think we know. I think Cam Newton regrets that situation. He obviously does. It's just an unfortunate piece of here.
It's officially off the rails here on the Cardinals Squad Show. Appreciate you guys tuning in for the second time this week. Reminder, we will be going live sometime next week as well. I'll put it out on the stream, so you can just keep an eye out for it. Obviously, one on Tuesday, likely one on Thursday. We'll talk about it together, figure out when we get together. But this is a 2 times a week show. We'll keep it open and line of communication with you guys, so you guys know when we are live. Appreciate you guys tuning in to the Cardinals Squad Show. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals Show your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On NFL Scouting. As training camps get closer, moves are being made. Host Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino will make you the most informed NFL fan this offseason. I know Clancy might like that after his just going after Cam Newton today. Find Locked On NFL Scouting on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. For Jamil Douglas, Alex Clancy, myself, Benjamin Garcia, and maybe even Cam Newton too. It's been the Cardinal Squad Show. Have a good rest of your week.